Hey guys, Chris here. Today I have a story about a man who's working on a ranch in Northwest Wyoming, and he goes in the forest to explore, and there he finds something very disturbing. That's next. Okay, so I've been hiking in the Shoshoni National Forest. I got a nice little stream behind me here. Just downstream, I found some large bear scat. So there's a bear around here somewhere. Also some kind of odd tracks I came upon. Nothing too concerning. Also, for today's beer from the Deschutes Brewery, we have the Symphonic Chronic Double Dank IPA, and that is a 9 ABV. That's a big can too. That is what is that, 19.2 ounces. Oh my gosh. I was thinking that was a 16, but it's a 19. Wow. And did you see this beast on the can here? A hippie Sasquatch, of all things. Crazy. Just cooled it off in the creek here too, so. Alrighty. It's kind of fun. Anytime there's a hippie Sasquatch on your beer can, it's going to be a good day. Put that right there on my log. So, cheers. Wow, that's really tasty. Kind of a mellow flavor to it. Not real bitter. I like that. Okay, so our story takes place in Northwest Wyoming. The year is 2002, near the small town of Cody, Wyoming. It was a small bar, and a young man, 26-year-old, named Matt, was working at this bar 4 nights a week. So because Matt worked at the bar, he got to know the locals really well, and all the things going on in the community. And there was this one particular person named Mandy who lived up the road towards the park, and she had a ranch up there. And he got to know Mandy while he was working there. And it turned out earlier that year her husband had passed away and she needed some help. And after her husband passed away, she had a previous person that was on location living in the guest house helping with chores around her ranch. And he unexpectedly quit one morning, and he didn't explain what was going on. He just was pretty vague, and he left. And she really needed some help, and so she offered Matt the opportunity to live in the guest house for free, and then to do some chores around the property, like water the trees near the house, watch the pets when she's gone, and just do a few things around the property when it needed to be done. And he thought this was a great opportunity for him because he was working 4 nights a week at this bar, and he could get free rent living in this guest house, so he jumped on the opportunity to work for Mandy at her ranch. So Matt had been working for Mandy on the ranch for about 2 weeks. It was late August, and he decided to go for a hike. Wanted to explore the area and just figure out the area. He was new, and he never taken any time to do this. Heading towards the Shoshoni National Forest, huge wilderness, lodgepole pine, can get pretty thick, a little dark in there. And he just decided to go straight in the forest, and he's going deeper and deeper into this forest. And before he knows it, he kind of breaks out in this valley. Very long valley, not too wide. And he thought, well, this is a nice break. I can just hike through this valley now. And he's starting to get views of the peaks to the west of him. And he noticed in the middle of this valley, there's stands of trees, pretty tightly packed stands of trees, but it's still open around it, kind of shady inside there. He comes around a particular set of trees and he notices in front of him, maybe about 25, 30 feet, these structures. Dome-shaped structures made out of tree branches, a little bit of moss, mud, pine boughs. They were good size, really good size, like somebody could stand up inside of them. 2 or 3 people could stand up inside of them. And they were 5 or 6 of them in this area, kind of like a camp or something. It was a little odd, but he thought, well, maybe this was some Boy Scouts. It is near this ranch. Maybe some ranch hands did something in the past. He didn't really overthink it. But he got this really odd feeling almost immediately, like he shouldn't be there. You also notice it was really quiet. There was no wind. Early evening, very early evening, there's some very long shadows. And he got this feeling that he needed to leave. And he looked around just for another moment, trying to see what was going on. He didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. And he turned and he left the valley and was heading back the direction he came. As he's walking out of this valley, heading for the forest again, the lodgepole forest, pretty dark in there, he gets this feeling that he's being watched. Like there's multiple sets of eyes watching him. He doesn't see anything, he doesn't hear anything. He's looking around, and he's about to go into this dark forest again to get back to this ranch. And right then, behind him, in the forest, over his shoulder, he hears something walking in the trees coming out to this valley. He stops and he turns and he looks and he sees come out of the trees this large bull elk. But something's off about this elk. It looks hobbled. It's walking really strange. As soon as the elk comes out of the dark of the forest and into the light of this valley, he can see on this neck of this large bull elk blood. And he's just staring at this, and he's watching this elk come out. And as it comes out, he can see the back of this elk now, very frightening. Skin was ripped off the back hind quarter and part of the back. Just the skin was gone. And this elk was clearly injured and hobbled, so it was walking really slowly. And he just stood there looking at this elk. He had the big rack and everything. It's August. He was just standing there watching this elk slowly limp along. So Matt observed that this elk was maybe about 30 yards away. He's standing there watching this elk, and then inside the dark forest, he hears some more sound of something else coming out of the forest. And he assumed it was going to be more elk travel in herds. He waited, and out of the shadows of the forest into the light of the valley, he saw these 2 shapes, kind of low shapes, and at first he thought they were a couple of bear walking right behind this wounded elk. And as soon as they became clear in the light, he saw that they looked like large apes walking on their knuckles and hind feet, maintaining a slow pace behind this elk, like they're waiting for it to die. Really strange and creepy at the same time. Matt was standing there in total fear watching this scene just slowly play out in front of him. He didn't feel like he could just turn and just bolt and run. He just felt these creatures would probably pursue him. And they didn't seem to notice him immediately. And then they both stopped, and one of them stood up. And Matt could see how large it was. 7, 8 feet tall. It was backlit from the western sun. You couldn't see the features really well, but he could see the shape. Really broad shoulders, maybe 500 or 600 pounds. He was only guessing at this point. And this one that was standing seemed to be almost analyzing him, whether he was enemy or prey. In looking at this large one standing there staring at him, he got this feeling that they were displeased with him, that he had seen something he wasn't meant to see, and that he was looking at these people of the forest. Right then he knew he needed to leave, and the only thing he could think of was to slowly go backwards. And he started to move backwards, and right then the large one standing there took a quick step towards him. It's 30 yards away, but still it startled Matt to see this large shape backlit by the sun make this quick step right towards him. And he knew in seconds it could be on him if it wanted to be. He continued to go backwards to get into the dark forest so he could turn and run and get back to the ranch. As Matt was slowly and quietly backing up towards the forest, he finally got some breathing room where he thought he could turn and head into the forest and get some cover away from these creatures so he could just get out of there and get back to the ranch. He got into the forest and he made one last turn to look back into the valley, and he now saw that the large Sasquatch creature that had been staring at him was now closer, like it had moved at the same time he had moved into the forest. Again, this startled Matt, and he knew he needed to continue this process of getting away from them and then getting some cover, visual break, so he could turn and just bolt out of there. He finally backed up to this pine tree and went around the pine tree and got this visual break that he needed, so he could just turn and feel like he could just run, and hopefully this thing would pursue him. He turned and ran, and as he's going through the forest, he knew his way back. He had just come through there, and he felt comfortable. At least he was heading in the right direction to the ranch. At least he wasn't lost, which would be really frightening. After about 30-40 seconds of running through this forest, really as fast as he can at this point, he hears off in the distance behind him in the valley this loud, deep growl, almost kind of like an elk call. It had this low to high to low, but it was a deeper, louder sound. And he knew it was from this creature that he was just staring at. He didn't stop this time, he didn't turn, he just continued to go back to the ranch house to get out of that forest. Matt is running through this forest as fast as he can, doesn't hear anything behind him. He's starting to get closer to the guest house, the ranch. He hears this howl, growl, almost like an elk call once more. It's distant, it's behind him. He can hear it echoing off the mountains from the valley. Just scared the crap out of him. And he was surprised at how fast he could continue to run. Got to this last little meadow right before the ranch, went into the guest house, locked the door. Sun was going down, and he decided to wait out the night so he could talk to Mandy the next morning. Mandy shows up. She had been somewhere else, and she showed up that next morning, and he went out to talk to her, and he told her, I can't live here any longer. I could help you during the day, but I can't live on your property anymore. I'm just not comfortable here. Matt did not want to explain the whole story because he didn't think Mandy would believe him, everything that he saw. But he did say, I've heard some really loud animal sounds, howls, and I can't identify them, and they make me feel really uncomfortable living in your guest house on the edge of the forest here, way off behind the ranch. And he said, I can still work for you during the day, but I can't do this anymore. And she said, I understand. I've heard the same sounds myself. And that's all she said. And she was fine with him just working during the day. Matt also had these thoughts and these chilling thoughts about what these Sasquatch were actually going to do to this bull elk once he was gone. And that made him really hard for him to sleep at night. And that is my story for today from the wild here. This is quite a forest I'm in. I love this stream. I wish I could take it home with me. I don't think it'd fit in my day pack, but all right, you guys, I appreciate you watching my channel. If you guys like stories about the strange, unexplained, and things that go bump in the night, you guys know what to do. Like and subscribe. And if you do have your own stories, it takes me some time to get to them, but I can be reached at basecampchris2@gmail.com. If you have your own story, I can take a look at it and see what we can do, if we can get it on an episode here. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. As always, keep hiking.